Hello, and welcome to Temple Street, the show brought to you by the Department of Communication and Journalism at Suffolk University. I'm Michaela Pyers.
I'm Melanie Odell.
And I'm Lenny Rowe. Today we'll take a closer look at one local high school helping students who are battling addiction, follow a Suffolk organization helping to free innocent people who are incarcerated, and learn about Suffolk's Upward Bound program. We'll also find out about how Bostonians feel about Planned Parenthood and sit down for an interview with filmmaker Lacey Schwartz.
Later, we'll celebrate the latest achievement by Suffolk's choir Rampage, and we'll also take a look at a local Thanksgiving Day parade in Plymouth. And as always, hear from our critic at large. Melanie, what do you have in store for us today?
Well, today I'm going to be talking about Syrian refugees and how I believe it's our responsibility as a nation to be taking them in, despite what some political leaders are saying.
Well, considering everything that's been going on lately, this is a perfect topic to take head on.
It is perfect. The people have so many strong opinions about taking in refugees, so I'm sure you'll make some really persuasive points. But first, the news. Opioid overdoses have been increasing at an alarming rate, bringing the death toll in 2014 to more than 1,200 individuals across the state. One local high school in downtown Boston has been helping students recover from addictions to drug and alcohol for the past 10 years. Temple Street reporter Jeanette Oriel takes us inside the school, transforming the lives of students battling addiction.
If I didn't come to Ostagai, I wouldn't be sober and I wouldn't be getting my education. This school pretty much saved me from going back to where I used to be.
Struggling with addiction can be difficult for any person, but for adolescents already facing everyday challenges, addiction can be a major setback. Ostagai High School in Boston's downtown crossing takes on a different approach to high school education. It is one of 5 recovery high schools in the state, helping students achieve sobriety while still obtaining their high school diploma.
We work about 70 young people a year. We're an open entry exit model, which means we can take students at different times of year.
Current senior Sage Wagner has been enrolled at Ostagai for the past 2 years.
There's a big stigma around addiction, and that stigma is that people choose to use drugs, they choose to destroy their lives, and they have total control over everything they do, but it's not true.
Experts say students who attend recovery high schools are taking a step in the right direction.
The research showed that if young people got clean and sober and they went back to their old schools, they relapsed very quickly. So if a young person is going to make the effort to get clean and sober, why not try to create an environment that's going to support their sobriety?
At Ostagai, students are able to receive support from staff, an on-site recovery counselor, and other students going through the same struggle. They allow students to focus on staying sober and work on their path to postgraduate education. Wagner is currently applying to college and hopes to maintain her recovery through college.
My major, I'm hoping, is going to be astrophysics and aeronautical engineering, which is what my dad did. I'm following in his footsteps. He was basically a rocket scientist who worked for NASA. So I have big aspirations. And I would have never had that if I wasn't sober and if I didn't come here.
Ostagai and other recovery high schools in the state give students like Wagner the opportunity to dream big one day at a time. For Temple Street, I'm Jeanette Oriel.
Alternative recovery schools help strive for students to remain substance-free, achieve their goals, and receive a high school diploma. As the state faces an opioid crisis, Governor Baker has proposed a bill that would restrict patients to a 3-day supply of painkillers the first time they're prescribed the drug or when they receive a prescription from a new doctor.
Although our criminal justice system has its strengths, mistakes often slip through the cracks, which sometimes can result in the conviction of innocent people. As of November 2015, the National Registry of Exonerations, created by Michigan Law School, has noted their registry included 1,700 exonerees since the 1980s. I got a closer look at what one organization here at Suffolk is doing to stem the flow of wrongful convictions. The Innocence Project is a program that seeks to overturn convictions of those wrongfully incarcerated, mainly through DNA evidence. Suffolk Law School hosts the regional branch of the project, the New England Innocence Project. Professor Stephanie Hartung, who has worked with the New England Innocence Project for over 6 years, oversees a seminar at the law school that prepares students to work on cases.
The Innocence Project relies heavily on volunteer work from law students who do what we call a case review to determine, is there really a viable claim of innocence here, and do we have a path to essentially try to obtain relief for this client.
Wrongly convicted in 2003, Dennis Marr owes his freedom to the Innocence Project.
I was exonerated of rape, attempted rape, and aggravated rape.
At the time of his arrest, Marr, a sergeant in the U.S. Army, was waiting to be redeployed. He says he'll never forget that night.
Well, it was horrifying because I didn't do what they said I did, and I would never do what they said I did. You know, they said I tried to rape one woman, raped another woman, and raped still another woman, and that was against my whole military creed. You know, I was a soldier.
In 2003, after 19 years in prison, Maher was finally freed after DNA evidence excluded him from all of his alleged crimes.
You know, I am part of the Innocence Project. I am a DNA exoneree, and you know, it'll always be part of my life.
So it's a wonderful opportunity for our students. We have so many students here at the law school who are interested in getting involved with innocence work, and for law students who have limited time for internships, to have, you know, an organization right upstairs that they can work with is really fantastic.
It's stuff that needs to be done to help change the way that the system works. The system's not broken, but there are things in it that doesn't work, and those things need to be changed. And that's what the Innocence Project strives to do.
Reporting for Temple Street, I'm Lenny Rowe.
In total, the Innocence Project has worked to free 329 people who have been wrongfully incarcerated, including 19 from death row. In May, the New England Innocence Project will celebrate its one-year anniversary of being here at Suffolk.
Despite overall rising graduation rates in the state, education officials say inner-city Boston high school students are still more likely to drop out compared to their Bay State peers. Educational programs such as Suffolk University's Upward Bound are working to help close the gap and give students better tools for their futures. Temple Street reporters Kelly Mitchell and Courtney Kulaluka caught up with Upward Bound at one of their weekly workshops.
The fact that Upward Bound is at Suffolk and it gives all of the students a chance to see a college through their own eyes, I feel like it helps all of us.
Upward Bound, a federally funded college prep program, helps students like Mason with summer sessions, financial advice, and daily academic assistance in core subjects. It's designed to help driven students succeed that are often underrepresented in higher education, such as those with financial challenges or would-be first-generation college students.
My family members didn't go to college, so I didn't have any support system or anyone telling me how it would be like. So my friend, she actually told me about the program, and the next day I applied.
The program hosts college tours and events at the students' high schools, and once a week Suffolk's chapter of Upward Bound is held here at the university, where the college students serve as homework tutors and mentors. Suffolk's Upward Bound Associate Director, Amanda Bernasconi, says there are many benefits to having the high schoolers build connections with college students.
Upward Bound programs nationally, I think, are very important because there's underrepresented populations in higher education. And without promoting opportunities of access, there is not a chance for those students to pursue higher learning. Here at Suffolk, I think it's important because it creates a great pipeline to a school where the students of Boston Public Schools are able to commute and afford a quality education.
Officials say a majority of Upward Bound students see a rise in their GPA in high school after joining the program, which aids them both in the college application process and with their own confidence.
This first term is my first term I ever had high honors, and I really think it's because of Upward Bound. I come here, do homework, and since I've met new people, we could group up after school in the library and do homework then. So that was my biggest problem, was homework, and Upward Bound helped it.
Reporting for Temple Street, I'm Kelly Mitchell with Courtney Kulaluka.
Suffolk's Program Associate Director also emphasizes the university's veteran Upward Bound and McNair scholarship programs that further Suffolk's outreach to those who wouldn't normally have access to higher education.
For many years, Planned Parenthood has been under attack by those who feel the organization is morally unjust.
That's right, and recently the nonprofit came under fire for videos accusing them of selling fetal tissue for profit. And while many conservative officials are pushing to defund the organization, women's health activists say Planned Parenthood's work is essential for young people's health. I went out with Melanie Odell to ask people to weigh in on the controversy.
Do you feel Planned Parenthood should be funded by the government? Why or why not?
Yes, because I think they provide important services, especially for people who are low income.
If it wasn't funded by the government, richer people would be able to have access to birth control and possibly abortions than lower classes.
I think it's a woman's right to choose. You know, that's a hard decision to make for anybody, Why make it harder? There are plenty of legitimate reasons to terminate a pregnancy. Not everybody who does it just wants to murder babies.
Planned Parenthood makes enough money. They make money off of women's problems.
I mean, the whole big thing surrounding it, I guess, is the abortion and everything, but people go to it for reasons other than that, for like birth control, health things. So I don't know. I think that the government needs to take care of its citizens for the things that they really need.
I feel like Planned Parenthood should be funded by the government because a lot of other things are funded by the government, which makes no sense at all.
I do, because I think that women need to be a top priority in this country. We deal with a lot of things, and I think that the government needs to take notice.
I believe in the rights of women to choose what they do with their own bodies.
I'm not a female, clearly. I'm a man, so it's not even like why men think we have some sort of why we think we should have presence in the decision making of that is beyond me.
I agree with that last guy. I don't understand why men feel the need to be at the center of decision making.
Well, I'm glad that you feel that way. If only we could get Congress that's full of men to feel the exact same way. Director and filmmaker Lacey Schwartz visited the Suffolk University campus for a screening and discussion about her documentary Little White Lie. The film follows her journey in discovering her true racial identity. I was able to sit down with the filmmaker before her screening and get a closer understanding of the film. Let's take a look at the trailer and then get to the interview.
I come from a long line of New York Jews. I grew up in a world with synagogue, Hebrew school, bar mitzvahs. So it never occurred to me that I was passing. I wasn't pretending to be something I wasn't. I actually grew up believing I was white. If you look too closely at it, it didn't make any sense. So we found ways to see what we wanted to believe.
You know, the fact is, like, whatever happened with you and Daddy and that inability to talk about things, that is what I carry on. Nobody talked about everything because it was all secrets.
Thank you for being with me, Lacey.
Thank you for having me.
No problem. I just want to congratulate you on your film. I really loved it. I thought your journey was so interesting and all the things you went through was amazing.
I really appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem. So I just wanted to start off first. In your film, it's like your journey started when Georgetown told you you were black. They basically checked the race box for you. So how was it like to actually be identified as a black woman just by your picture?
You know, I think for me, things like that have been happening even before Georgetown. It was just such a pivotal moment in my life when I was going out on my own, you know, leaving my parents had so defined who I was. So this idea that I was going on my own and able to kind of explore who I was. You know, the reality situation is Georgetown was not the first person to really identify me based on how I looked as being black. It was just, I think what was so momentous about it was because I was out on my own and could actually kind of explore what that might even mean.
Right. So this all started when you were 18. This was a young age. You're just becoming an adult. In the film, so many of your family members said they felt like Rodney was your dad, but they never said anything to you. How do you think you would have reacted if, like, at a younger age, they brought it up?
And I think it's interesting. I think, you know, in certain ways, like my family said, and so many of us were in denial and had this incredible denial that we were really doubling down on, honestly, that we were very much endorsing. And I think that so much influenced our experiences, and the fact that, you know, with even I really, I think deep down believe the truth, but can convince myself to think something else. And so I think it's hard for me to even imagine kind of the what ifs of it, because of the fact that I think so much of it is about like the psychological stages that we go through and how we come into something when we're ready for it.
Right. So it seems like you've been working on this documentary for a really long time. Like you had a lot of scenes from when you were younger. What sparked your interest in filmmaking?
I actually went to law school here in Boston, Harvard. And when I got there, I was really interested in talking about issues that I cared about using film as a medium. And so when I was in law school, I was able to got permission from law school that for a few classes, in particular for my thesis project, instead of writing a paper, to make a film. And that's really what got me started doing it. I kind of turned law school into film school.
Right. Right. So you graduated from Harvard Law.
Yeah.
Do you still practice law today?
I never practiced, actually. I went right into production after law school.
So do you use your degree in any way, like with the films, or?
Again, I don't practice law,
Mhm.
but I think of it as a worthwhile degree and a worthwhile time that I spent in terms of connections and relationships and stuff.
That's great. So in the film, some of the hardest scenes to watch were definitely the ones with your dad. They were really emotional. Do you ever regret putting those on camera?
I don't regret it. No, I don't. I mean, I think that, personally, I think that the hard part of these kind of situations, and so many people who have family secrets, is that it's actually more what it is in your head. Then the reality is hard and it's hard to go through, but it's incredibly important to go through it. And so what I was really trying to do with this film is show and model the power of process, the power of having these difficult conversations. And I think if, especially because I'm very thankful my dad was open to doing this, that if I had left that piece out, it wouldn't have been as effective.
So how are things with your dad today? Are things better? Have they changed, like now that the truth is out and you know everything?
Yeah, things are really good. I mean, with my father, with my whole family, I think that having these conversations has in fact led to a much better relationship for all of us. And it just, if anything, really took away a lot of the anxiety that we had.
Right. So I know you're a mom now, and
Yeah.
so much of your journey was confronting your mom about the truth. How do you think this has changed the way you parent now, if it has?
I mean, because all this happened before I was a parent, it has to completely influence it. I mean, I think just the idea, my kids are so little, so it's hard to completely understand yet, but I think it will definitely influence, the way I talk about things, I think part of it, it's certainly not all of it, but part of it with my mom was even this idea of how you think you're protecting people, or you're not thinking about the consequences of your actions. So I think for me, it's just about trying to be aware and trying to be honest and open with my kids and just encourage that healthy conversation and dialogue.
Do you think this is something you'll tell your kids about in the future?
I mean, there's no question. I mean, this is who I am. There's no my big reveal is done. You know what I'm saying? I think it's so much of who I am. It's so much of what I also do professionally is as a filmmaker and telling stories that I think that my kids, I can't even imagine revealing it to my kids. I just feel like it's something they'll grow up knowing about. And I just think in general, for me, part of the point of it is it's about destigmatizing our experiences, not raising your kids to be like, ooh, this is crazy. It's kind of like, this is what it is, and it's okay, and we all have these differences and these experiences, and we don't have to have stigma around them or be embarrassed about them.
Right. So in your film, you said when you were younger, you tried to change your appearance, you tried to straighten your hair. So many kids do that today. When I was younger, I did the opposite. So many people in my family have curly hair, and I didn't grow up with curly hair, so I tried, curling my hair to look more like my family. So where you are right now, what would you tell your younger self?
I think it's again, going back to this idea of stigma, it's so hard, I think, when you're younger and you feel like there is this norm that you should conform to. And I just did a class for fourth graders. I just spoke to a class of fourth graders, and it was really heartbreaking to see how many of them felt so insecure, and all of them felt like they were different. I was like, if you all feel like you're different, then who actually feels like what is normal here? If everybody's going through that experience, how do we get to a place where we can really support those differences and encourage people to think of them as positive things? So I don't know, it's more for me about kind of looking at the society, looking at the educational systems, looking at how we talk to our kids, than kind of what I would have done differently.
All right. Well, I just want to thank you for coming again, and also congratulations on your film. I really loved it.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
No problem.
I don't know how I'd handle my family lying to me my whole life. That was an amazing interview, Michaela.
Thanks, Lenny. I know, I think it was really great how she was really determined to find out the truth, and how she really just grew as a person because of it.
Absolutely. Well, stay right where you are. After the break, we'll follow one Suffolk group who's being recognized nationally, see how one American town is celebrating the holidays,
and hear from our critic at large, Melanie O'Dell. Stay tuned.
I just moved in with his family, and it's embarrassing. The little one, he likes to go outside and crawl around in the giant litter box. I don't know what he's doing. Oh, poop already. You're making me nervous.
Looking for these? You drive Buzzed. It could be one very expensive ride.
First, you gotta make bail. Then pay me to get your car back.
Your insurance premiums will go through the roof.
And my legal fees just keep adding up. All told, it could end up costing you $10,000.
Buzzed, busted, and broke. Because buzz driving is drunk driving.
Suffolk's Rampage Show Choir is finally joining the big leagues. The group will break from their traditional small-scale performances as they host and perform in a national show choir competition. Emma Doherty brings us the story.
Rampage, Suffolk's only show choir, is doing something that no other SU performing arts group has done. They are hosting and performing at a national competition. Since the group was established 6 years ago, they've performed mainly for Suffolk shows. Recently, they sang in a Providence Bruins game, and while this was the first step up from their typical local show, it is not the last of their big performances.
You know, it's such a big opportunity for us. We've been asked to host a competition that's on a national stage.
We need to step up our game and really be like the best we've ever been.
Fame Events asked Rampage to host and perform in their national competition in Orlando, Florida this spring, where high school show choirs will come from across America to compete. Kristen Baker, the group's advisor, says this is a great achievement.
They've done smaller trips. They've been invited to perform at the Providence Bruins a number of times and at other events in the sort of New England area. But this will be the first multi-day hosting that they've done and the first time they've organized a trip of this size.
Rampage is the only collegiate show choir in Massachusetts. This, and through having contact with the group's musical director, is how Rampage earned their invitation. Group member Morgan Pritchard says they're grateful for this opportunity.
Rampage has never done anything this big before, and we're a relatively newer group on campus, so getting this opportunity so soon was really amazing.
The group will be in Orlando for 3 days this upcoming April. The Performing Arts Department is proud of their accomplishments. For Temple Street, this is Emma Doherty.
Rampage is in the thick of preparing for the competition. They plan to pay for their trip using their own budget, fundraising, and support from the Suffolk community. Visit their Facebook page to learn more about the group and donate towards Orlando costs.
America's Hometown Celebration in Plymouth, Massachusetts commemorates the first Thanksgiving celebrated there in 1621. This year marks the 20th anniversary of the holiday event, which has been considered one of the largest events in the nation for tourism for the last 3 years. Temple Street reporter Melanie Odell traveled to America's Hometown for a front row seat at the celebration's kickoff parade.
The beat of drums and sound of trumpets marked the beginning of the 20th anniversary for the America's Hometown celebration in Plymouth, Massachusetts. Hundreds of people gathered on the waterfront to watch the parade that marks the official beginning of the holiday season.
A lot of fun. We look forward to it every year, me and my wife. We've been living there for 14 years, like I said, and I don't know, we have a ball.
This year's parade included a variety of floats and performers, showing off Plymouth's history, team spirit, and of course, some Thanksgiving favorites. The new addition to this year's show included a float in support of Paris after the tragic terror attack on November 13th. Dedicated longtime parade volunteer Janet Young expressed her excitement over the America's Hometown celebration being named one of the biggest events in the nation for tourism.
This parade is now growing. It's not just a community parade anymore. It's being recognized as a top 100 event throughout the country, and people from all 50 states to be able to come here and visit and join us in a gift and blessing of Thanksgiving.
Performers showcased U.S. history from the 17th through 21st century, with pilgrims and soldiers marching alongside horses and bands, creating one of the nation's only historically accurate chronological parades. With 17 floats and hundreds of volunteers participating in the 20th anniversary celebration, families braved the cold temperatures to become part of the historic event.
It's freezing, but it was fun.
Very good turnout every year. This is an awesome parade.
The holiday celebrations in Plymouth begin the week before Thanksgiving, starting with the parade and ending with a traditional Thanksgiving dinner on Thanksgiving Day at Plymouth Plantation. But whichever event you attend, you'll see Plymouth's history and culture coming to life right here on the waterfront. Reporting for Temple Street, I'm Melanie Odell.
Volunteers say that 2015 seemed to be the largest turnout the parade has ever seen. The celebration weekend also includes live entertainment, an outdoor living history village, and a popular food festival every year.
Usually we like to end our show on a lighter note, but today we have to get a little more serious. For over 4 years, the people of Syria have been forced out of their country and have to flee to other nations. With many countries refusing to take in refugees, Melanie Odell is here to convince us why the United States should not be one.
Thanks, Lenny. In our last show, Temple Street reporter Jeanette Oriel took to the streets to ask Bostonians if they believe the United States should take in Syrian refugees. Since then, a devastating terrorist attack on the city of Paris that left 129 dead and 352 injured has caused many citizens and political leaders to change their minds on the issue. Since the attacks on Paris, more than half of the nation's governors have decided to oppose taking in Syrian refugees, including Massachusetts Governor Charlie Baker. While political leaders may cite their choice as a national security issue, I believe that many U.S. citizens oppose accepting refugees simply because they are uneducated on the issue. Since the civil war in Syria started over 4 years ago, UN officials say 250,000 have died, and over 12 million have been forced out of their home and are in need of humanitarian assistance. Facing inhumane living conditions, and about 4 million people, mostly women and children, have fled the country. But while some European countries have accepted hundreds of thousands, the U.S. has accepted less than 2,200. With all of the recent reports of terrorism and destruction from ISIS, it is to be expected that some would be weary of accepting refugees from a war-torn country. Many governors and citizens have stated they believe national security should come first over helping refugees. However, despite earlier reports that the attackers of the Paris terror attacks snuck into the country as Syrian refugees, it was later revealed that the Syrian passports found in their possession were falsified. They were all European citizens. While it is possible that a terrorist could pose as a Syrian refugee, I believe it is more important to put the lives of millions of families seeking safety over our fears of terrorism. After all, the mission of terrorists is to instill fear, and by adopting fear logic, we are helping them succeed. While national security is obviously important, as a nation, we can't be turning away those in need of help due to racist ignorance. There are 1.57 billion Muslims in the world, and we can't let the actions of a few extremists inform our views of an entire religion. Believing that all Muslims are members of ISIS is like saying that all Christians are members of the KKK. It's a ridiculous generalization. In fact, it's been reported that of the 4 million refugees referred by the UN for settlement so far, half are children under the age of 18. Another large majority are elderly. Only 2% have been reported as military-aged men traveling with no families, which is considered by the government to be a suspicious demographic profile. Although it goes without saying, life as a refugee is not easy. Being forced from your country due to a violent dictatorship and relying on help from countries completely foreign to you is devastating. Refugee camps are often cramped and unsanitary. While we worry about what we want for Christmas, millions of families are worrying about simply surviving. During the season that is supposed to remind us of generosity and kindness, we are turning away those who truly need help. Out of the 70,000 refugees accepted into America during the last fiscal year, only 2% were from Syria, so at the moment, we aren't really doing much to help. Refugees are men and women like us who deserve a home and deserve safety. If we deny them of those basic human rights, we are no better than those who forced them out of their country to begin with. We must not forget how the U.S. turned away Jewish refugees during World War II, only to force them back to Germany, where many of them were later killed by the Nazis. As Americans, we are very privileged to live in a free country, and I believe that especially now, in the spirit of the holiday season, we must show compassion and extend a hand to these refugees who are in dire need.
Well said, Melanie. With a lot of forced bigotry from Donald Trump, it's finally we got someone with a voice of reason on TV.
Well, there's a lot of false information going around right now about refugees, so hopefully I was able to clear a few things up.
You were able to clear a few things up. I completely agree with you. I don't understand why the innocent people in Syria have to suffer, and if we can help as Americans, I feel like we should.
I agree.
Well, that's all we have for today's show. Thanks from all of us here at Temple Street. I'm Lenny Rowe.
I'm Melanie Odell.
And I'm Michaela Pyers. Thanks for watching.